President Trump is calling on Israel to stop strikes on Gaza after Hamas shows signs of accepting at least parts of the president's peace proposal. This as the U.S. military announces more strikes on drug trafficking boats. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson joins me live from the White House North Lawn. Hello, Rich.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. The president is keeping up the pressure on Hamas to follow through and release those hostages. He just posted, quote, "I appreciate that Israel has temporarily stopped the bombing in order to give the hostage and peace plan a chance to be completed. Hamas must move quickly, or else all bets will be off. I will not tolerate delay, which many think will happen, or any outcome where Gaza poses a threat again. Let's get this done fast. Everyone will be treated fairly." The president has warned Hamas that it needs to agree to his peace plan by tomorrow night, or that he would support Israel to do what it had to do. It's unclear if Israel would accept any changes to the White House plan. While Hamas says it's willing to release the hostages and transition Gaza's government to other Palestinians, it has said nothing about disarming.
Their leverage is getting thinner, but each person, even down to the last hostage, does afford them leverage, unfortunately. They don't have respect for human life, but they use hostages as their own life insurance, and this is reprehensible.
Now, the administration has also announced another strike on a vessel off the coast of Venezuela. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says, quote, "I directed a lethal kinetic strike on a narco-trafficking vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organizations. Our intelligence, without a doubt, confirmed that this vessel was trafficking narcotics. The people on board were narco-terrorists, and they were operating on a known narco-trafficking transit route." Now, some Democrats have questioned the legality of these strikes. Secretary Hegseth said they will continue until the narco-trafficking stops. Back to you, Mike.
Rich Edson live on the North Lawn. Rich, thanks very much. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country will work with President Trump to end the war in Gaza. Chief international correspondent Steve Harrigan is live in Tel Aviv, Israel, with the latest. Hello, Steve.
Mike, things are moving forward quickly. Right now, we've learned that negotiators for Hamas are en route to Cairo, Egypt. Part of the talks there will be to try and technically work out how the remaining hostages could be released. Also, some signs, too, that Hamas leadership is on board with as far as turning over power in Gaza to other Palestinian groups. Still a couple of major hurdles, though. Hamas leaders, some of them refusing the idea of giving up their arms, also refusing the idea of playing a role in the future government of Hamas. Over here in Tel Aviv, when you're on the streets talking to people about how they feel about the ups and downs emotionally over the past 2 years when the hostages have been gone, there is definitely a feeling, a sense of hope among them, even among some family members of those being held hostage. Hope and also a sense of gratitude towards President Trump for his efforts. Here's one of those family members.
And yet we must remember that on the other side of the fence, there is a terrorist organization that killed, butchered, slaughtered, tortured, and still tortured after kidnapping. And we need to make sure we, the Western countries, our allies, the mediators, of course, Israel, we have to make sure that this deal goes all the way through.
Big picture, too, we're just days away from October 7th. That was 2 years ago, the date when Hamas operatives came in and slaughtered almost 1,200 Israelis, took 251 hostages. Of those hostages, 48 still remain. At least 20 of them seem to be alive. Their family members now hoping they will all be released soon. Mike, back to you.
Steve Harrigan live in Tel Aviv. Steve, thanks so much. For more on the Hamas response to President Trump's Gaza peace plan, let's bring in the Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow Brent Sadler. Brent, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So there are reports that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are heading to the region for talks. Sounds like things are serious. Hamas says it accepts some parts of the president's peace plan. Are we wise to be cautious with what Hamas is saying?
Yes, absolutely wise, given the past as a prologue of what to expect with this terrorist organization, Hamas. Absolutely. And it's certainly, I think, very important to keep the pressure on militarily. While there is a pause, or at least an opening being given by the Israelis to allow things to play out, the deadline for Sunday evening needs to be held firm. And at least real tangible movement, the release of hostages, needs to be seen in the next few hours for this to be, I think, taken beyond more than just face value.
Quite often you need pressure to produce a result. Clearly the president's applying his pressure. We'll see if it works out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the Trump administration is carrying out strikes on vessels. We heard Rich talk about it, basically going after what they say are narco-terrorists. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth tweeting, "Our intelligence without a doubt confirmed that this vessel was trafficking narcotics. The people on board were narco-terrorists, and they were operating on a known narco-trafficking transit route. These strikes will continue until the attacks on the American people are over." Is this an appropriate use of presidential war powers?
I think so, and I think there's a strong case to be made for that. I mean, these groups that are operating in the United States are killing American citizens, not just through their drugs, but also through a whole other array of illicit activities. And so they are a national threat. They are killing American citizens. The president, given the size and the scale, in 2023, over 100,000 Americans died because of the poison that these groups are dealing in, is taking stiff and strong action. It requires a new approach to actually put these cartels out of business. Going after them in the Caribbean, around and coming out of the waters of Venezuela, I think is the right approach. International water, international space, but it's not going to be enough to put them out of business and rid the world of the scourge of these groups. Going to have to also broaden the scope.
The United States is celebrating this weekend 250 years of the United States Navy. We're told it's going to be a massive celebration in Norfolk, Virginia. President Trump is going. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's as a Navy man myself for 26 years, it's good to see. We're coming up on the 250th anniversary of my proud service, and it would be great to see a very proud demonstration of naval power at one of our historic naval yards.
So we've had Secretary of War Hegseth bring back America's top military commanders, both generals and admirals from far corners of the globe, to hear from him and also hear from the Commander-in-Chief, President Trump. Your thoughts on basically his trying to shift the focus to more lethality of U.S. military troops?
I think the message is very well received, overwhelmingly. These are officers and even senior enlisted. We forget that their senior enlisted advisor to many of these generals and admirals was also present. So it's a signal across the board. It's not just the officer corps that was being talked to by the Secretary and the President. This message of focusing on core mission and getting back to the core principles of what it means, and that's a meritocracy and combat effectiveness. That's what's necessary to deter our adversaries like China, who is not really deterred right now if you see what they're doing in the East Asia and in the South Pacific. It is a message that I think is received, it is timely, and I think it was underscored with the president's presence at the meeting.
We also had the Secretary focus on physical fitness of our men and women in uniform. Do we have a weight problem in the United States military?
Well, the nation has a weight problem of obesity, for sure, and certainly with nutrition. So the Make America Healthy Again, I think, also needs to echo in the military. And clearly, there is a slackening of the standards, which we've seen not just in weight, but in appearance standards. Clearly, the weight and being able to fit into a uniform and carry across that corporate image of lethality, you don't really carry that if you're, 20, 30 pounds overweight.
Do you expect admirals and generals to really step up the PT after being called out like that?
Those that want to stay, yes.
Okay. Brent Sadler, thank you so much for your time and your analysis today. Great to have you.
Thank you very much.
President Donald Trump on Saturday announced Israel has agreed to the initial withdrawal line in Gaza, which the U.S. has shared with Hamas. Pending Hamas's confirmation, the agreement will trigger an immediate ceasefire and exchange of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. After negotiations, Israel has agreed to the initial withdrawal line, which we have shown to and shared with Hamas. When Hamas confirms, the ceasefire will be immediately effective, the hostages and prisoner exchange will begin, and we will create the conditions for the next phase of withdrawal, which will bring us close to the end of this 3,000-year catastrophe, Trump wrote in a Truth Social post Saturday. Thank you for your attention to this matter and stay tuned. The announcement comes hours after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement Saturday morning, noting Israel was on the verge of a very great achievement. It is not yet final. We are working on it diligently, and I hope, with God's help, that in the coming days, during the Sukkot holiday, I will be able to inform you about the return of all our hostages, both living and deceased, in one phase, while the IDF remains deep within the Strip and in the controlling areas within it, Netanyahu said. Netanyahu claimed that after intense military and diplomatic pressure, Hamas was pressured into agreeing to Israel's proposed plan, rejecting the fact that Hamas had previously been ready to release the Israeli hostages without a full withdrawal from Gaza. In the first stage of the withdrawal plan, he said Hamas will release all Israeli hostages while the IDF redeploys, but maintains control over key strategic areas deep inside the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu will send his negotiating team, headed by Minister Ron Dermer, to Egypt to finalize the technical details of the hostage release, which he expects to conclude within a few days. The Prime Minister emphasized that both Israel and the U.S. intend to prevent any stalling or delay tactics by Hamas. In the second stage of the plan, Netanyahu said Hamas will be disarmed and the Gaza Strip demilitarized, either through diplomatic means under the Trump plan or, if necessary, by military force. I also said this in Washington. Either it will be achieved the easy way or it will be achieved the hard way. But it will be achieved, he said. Together we pushed back our enemy's plans of destruction, from Gaza to Rafah, from Beirut to Damascus, from Yemen to Tehran. Together we have achieved great things, Netanyahu added. From victory to victory, we are changing the face of the Middle East together. Together we will continue to act to ensure the eternity of Israel. Netanyahu thanked Trump for his assistance in dispatching the B-2 planes to bomb the nuclear facility in Fordo and for his steadfast support.